Okay. Well, it's been a bit since we've gotten together. Sorry for the last meeting with the technical challenges of not being able to open the meeting. And so we were back to the agenda that we had put for that. Let's approve the agenda is the first thing. You want to
Yes,
do that?
I'll
Second,
move, and as soon as
all
you
in
say,
favor?
all right, I'll move the agenda. You second, and we're ready to roll on that.
Okay, that's great. We're done there. Any public comment for items not on the agenda? Yes, Jim.
Hi, everybody. It's good to see you in this important work. I'm going to, many of you know that my background is leadership in the United Church of Christ. And I used to be the head of the UCC for all of the UCC churches in Massachusetts. And because of that, I just want to offer what might strike some of you as an odd comment, something not on the agenda, something that I believe merits public comment because of its relevance to the work of this group. And it puts in context, I think, everything that we are doing here. And this will be very brief, and it concerns the passing of the big, beautiful bill. And all I want to say in terms of my public comment is never has the importance of local leadership in affecting the transition to clean and renewable energy been more important. And that's exactly what we're convened to do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Ernie.
We got Ernie?
Yep.
Great.
Go ahead.
Steve, is Annette Smith in the waiting room?
No, she's here.
I can see her. I mean, I
She
can
is.
see her as
Okay, good. Sorry, I didn't see her. Great, awesome. Okay. So, Ernie, we approved the agenda. If you wanted to make any changes, now's the moment.
Nope, I'm all set, thanks.
Awesome. Great. Correspondence.
Did we have any?
I didn't think we did. No, we
No,
don't.
there's no correspondence.
Okay, so there's nothing to talk about there. So the first thing I think is the charge in the charter to the subcommittee, because this was written in 2023, and when I was reading it now several months ago, as we were continuing to do this work, it felt like we needed to take a look at it and really make sure that the charge to the committee aligns with what the work is of the Planning Commission, and not more than that. And so the past charge was very much an advocacy charge. And I would say that that may be the role of the Energy Committee in town, but that the role of the Planning Commission was different than that. And that our role really is to work to ensure that the town plan reflects the laws of the state and the character and topography of the town, and that we want to revise the town plan to ensure that it reflects town laws and enables effective review of all proposed solar projects. This was brought to mind when we brought this committee's work to the full Planning Commission last time. And those of you who might have been there or seen the meeting noted that Jeff Goodrich refused to stay in the meeting because he wanted it to be focused on what are the laws. I'm sorry, Mary, do you have something to say, or would you like me to finish?
You can finish your statement, but I have something to say relevant to that.
Okay, so he left because he said we just need to talk about what are the laws and how does it apply to the plan. That was the framework that he had, and we went back and looked, and it had, we're going to guide and encourage solar siting. And at least I don't believe that it's the role of the Planning Commission to be encouraging things, but rather to be ensuring that the town plan reflects the laws of the state and and make sure that the town reflects that. So we looked at this to kind of change the language to to reflect the work ahead. Again, you look at it, the background work that we were supposed to be doing had to instigate and encourage townwide conversations on the topic, understand and create a reference materials for federal, state, and regional laws, etc. And again, this is a proposal for discussion as to the work we'll do ahead. So I do think we need to be clear about what our role is and what it is not. Mary.
Yeah, the town.
Actually, could
plan
I actually, before you talk, let me ask whether any member of the subcommittee would like to speak? Yeah, Jan.
Yeah, I just so this, just to be clear, these are your edits that we're looking at. We haven't talked about
Correct.
this as a group yet.
Well, we're not permitted to
I
talk
actually,
yeah.
I actually think it's a good idea to be clear on how this group relates to the Energy Committee, relates to the Conservation Commission, and I would want to be very clear that this committee should make sure that the town plan reflects the laws of the state and the desires of the townspeople. I mean, that the whole point to the town plan is that it is supposed to describe what Norwich want, what our Norwich residents want Norwich to look like. And so it's not just it's not totally agnostic. It should be a forum for pulling that all together. And I think that's to the point of we as this committee doesn't advocate for one of those, one side or another, but we should pull together all of it and make sure it's in the plan in a useful way.
And you just said what I was going to say is the town plan should reflect what the intent and the desires of the people of the town, the voters, the people who write the check to run the town want. And
Right.
So the town plan, it can have laws in it if you want, but it's primarily the voice of the people.
Right. And I think that's really, we want to make sure that the town plan does reflect that and does reflect the appropriate kind of process. But I don't believe that it should be that our job is to be an advocacy group. Linda.
Hi, thank you. I just happen to have been looking at the select board packet for their meeting tomorrow, and they've got their handbook there, which goes through a lot of stuff with all the committees, and they actually have it's page 101 of the select board packet for tomorrow, but there's quite a short charge for the Planning Commission Solar Siting Subcommittee. And I'm wondering, are you guys aware of that language, and how does that fit in with what you guys are talking about?
Yeah, so I was aware of that. We clearly have not, this committee or the Planning Commission have not looked at or approved that wording. That handbook is a draft created by Marcia. I talked to Marcia probably 6 months ago, where she said that she was looking at this charter, our old charter, and trying to make something shorter that captured the meaning of it. But it is not something we've reviewed. It's not something we have approved. I do think that just from a nomenclature point of view, they were trying to get a charge for each committee or subcommittee, which would be a relatively short description of their purpose and their focus. And then you might have a charter, you might have a set of bylaws. The Affordable Housing Subcommittee has bylaws. But yes, I was aware of that paragraph, but we haven't approved it. It's not official. I would, It's not bad. From what I saw, it was a decent compilation, but we would need to look at it and really bounce it off the planning commission to make it official in the select board handbook.
Yeah, I was not aware of that Marcia was doing that work, or that had been, that Jan had the conversation. And just to be clear, the first thing, the committee's work will be to determine locations that are appropriate for potential solar installations in Norwich, bearing in mind the town's character, topography, location of three-phase power lines, and the desire of its residents. So that's in the first paragraph. So I think that is clear, that it does include what the desire of the residents are. That's the purpose of the town plan.
Mm-hmm. So it may be simplify. I mean, we should decide how we want to play the select board handbook thing, but I would propose that we simply sort of make a statement that I can put in the minutes that say, we understand that the select board draft handbook has a draft charter in it. We will review it and we will come back with a version that has been agreed upon by this subcommittee and the planning commission if appropriate, or something like that, just so we flag the fact that we've seen it, but we haven't approved it.
Linda?
All right, thanks again. And I did just want to ask, is it the usual process for a subcommittee charge to be developed by the subcommittee itself as opposed to by the body that kind of creates it? And secondarily, I have this question, if you can clarify for me. Like various places, this is referred to as a solar siting subcommittee, but then elsewhere on the webpage, it's a working group, formerly subcommittee. So could you guys explain what is going on behind how the group ought to be described? What does each involve? And then as well, my question is it the usual thing for the group itself to write its own charge? Thank you.
Let me respond to the first one. I don't know what is usual. I don't know whether it's usual to have a charge, but as the chair of the committee, when I read it, I thought this is not the charge that I'm being asked by my colleagues on the committee to I didn't feel like the planning committee. So I thought I would take a swing at it. We are in a very awkward position in the town, in a group like this, because I can't talk to Jan about this outside of this meeting. And I can't talk to Ernie about this outside of this meeting. So if we want to start to think about, okay, well, how do we think about this charge? The only way to have a discussion is to do it and put it in front of the group in this public forum. And so that's what we did. So whether that's, Linda, I have no idea what's traditional about how charges are written, but I do think that if I'm the chair of the subcommittee, and I don't think that the charge reflects the work that we're now being asked to do, this is the place to bring up the conversation.
Well, just to be clear, from the planning commission asked the group to write its charter. The planning commission acknowledged the need for a group that would look at this topic, but the PC asked the group to write a draft that would then go back to the planning commission, which this did when it was written, and it was approved by the planning commission at that time. Things have changed, not, counting the laws and so forth since then. To the subcommittee and working group question, I would just say, let's not worry too much about it. There was a period of time a year or two ago when the select board was duking it out about who could be on committees and what they were and who could set them up. And we were dancing the line with working group rather than subcommittee. I think we're over that, and we can be a subcommittee again without causing trouble. The groups that are mentioned in the handbook are official and can be called subcommittees.
Paul. You're on mute, Paul. You're on mute.
Well, thank you very much for having this forum to kind of talk about solar siting. And, I could understand, when the last meeting that you had, I was there, and I would just like to say that I can understand why your position is not necessarily to be advocates for solar siting, but I just want to be reassured that you are not going to impede solar siting.
What would make you think that we're impeding solar siting?
I just, some of the discussions that went on in the past, the last time that you had the meeting, some of the concerns that you had about where it was being proposed, I didn't really feel that the arguments against where the siting of the panels were necessarily valid. And like I said, going forward, I would hope that, like I said, that your committee wouldn't be necessarily proposing sites, but on the other hand, wouldn't be restricting the development of the siting of solar in the town. That's basically it.
The state has encouraged us to identify areas that are preferred sites and that areas that where there would not be sites, and then look at other kind of sites in between. I think what we're trying to get at, Paul, is some clarity in the town plan, because right now there is no, I think that there's not clarity. Are you allowed to build on a steep slope? Maybe, maybe not. Depends which part of the plan you read. Are you allowed to build on a ridge line? Well, no, in some places, and yes, in other places. And we are not, the town plan is out of date. Right now, the state says you cannot clear cut more than 3 acres. Well, we have one that was approved last year that's clear cutting 8 acres. So I think it's trying to clarify what it is that we, so people who want to come in, we had this deck that's further on in the process. Let me see, I can get to it. It's on page 5 and 6, setting kind of what we want to, what we need to do to the town plan to clarify the language, to identify preferred potential and not appropriate sites is really the goal that we're trying to get towards, and have clarity in the town. But I think that right now we have a open checkbook for putting solar anywhere in town. That is true by the way that the plan is written. And I think that I am concerned about that. So if that is expressed, if that it feels to you like it's trying to stop solar, no, I'm not. I'm just trying to make sure that the town's clear about where it can go and where it can't. Jan.
Well, I think to be balanced about it, and I agree, we shouldn't advocate for one side, which means we shouldn't advocate for the other side, for another side. And so that should be a balanced approach. But if our purpose of this group compared to the Conservation Commission or the Energy Committee is to pull together the townspeople's desires around the topic of solar siting and get town plan language that is useful and effective and gives the town's voice the most influence that it can have in this topic. So, I mean, that gets at enhanced energy plans, it gets at clear language in the town plan, and so on. But I think it's actually a good sort of restatement of who we are, because it is confusing, or I think it has been confusing, where if we were not seen as advocating for solar, then the flip side was, oh, that means we must be against it. And I do think it's a better way of seeing it to say our job is to get the town plan to be clear about this topic and reflect the desires of the townspeople.
Right. It needs to be a regulatory document. Right now, it's not able to be used that way because it's not clear and it's not aligned with the laws of the state. And so if the job of the planning commission is to give guidance to people who want to come in and develop solar in Norwich, it's really helpful for them to know, is this going to work or is it not going to work? And helpful to people if you're thinking about buying a property in Norwich, and what is your geography going to potentially be, if that's something interesting to you or not. But right now, it is not a document that works for regulatory review, and it is out of sync with the 5100 guidance that the state has made. So those are the reasons to change and to make that's why I think the solar siting, that's why it's here, not in the energy committee.
So I'm trying to think about how we can move on without trying to group edit a 3-page document. I do think it's a very useful new statement that we've just made about the purpose of this committee. But Mary, how do you think we can what's the next step on this topic?
I think it would be helpful to see what Marcia has written. I'll get on page 101 of the select board agenda and take a look at it. And maybe we look at, maybe we then return to this topic at another meeting. People have edits they want to suggest, by all means, send them forward, and we can track those. But I don't believe that the job of this group is to advocate for it. I think it's just to make sure we have clarity, that we reflect what the townspeople want, and we reflect the laws. And that's the same thing for, so much of what we do in the planning commission. It's to ensure those things. Linda and Ernie, excuse me.
I think that what you just said before you were speaking to Jan was a really good sound kernel around which we could start writing, and I think that you should write that down, and we should use that as sort of a beginning for whatever the document we call it, whatever we call the document further, because I think it encapsulates in a concise way what we have to be doing, and it doesn't leave, it's not ambiguous or anything. So I think it's just one of the.
Glad we recorded the meeting then, so I can remember what I said, Ernie.
Say again.
That's what the
I'm
video.
glad we recorded the meeting so I can remember what brilliant.
I am too.
Well,
I was thinking about that.
Let's take it as let's look at writing a charge.
6:58. I'm sorry, Jan. At 6:57 or 6:56 is when we talk about it.
I think let's shoot for writing a charge rather than a charter. So it's one paragraph instead of 2 pages, and get that.
Happy to do that.
Get that locked in and get that in the handbook and get the PC to say, yep, that looks. There's no point in trying to get too verbose about it.
Agree.
And I think that what Mary just said was a perfect thing for a charge. It was an active statement, and it was clear and concise. I think it's perfect. A perfect place to start. Let's put it that way.
Great. Thanks. We'll do that. So Stephen, if you could grab that language and get that, we could keep this moving. Linda Gray.
Thank you. And I just want to say, so Jan and Mary, each of you have in the last couple of minutes just said that you want to be sure the town plan reflects what the townspeople want. And one of the things I do want to let you know, it sounds like you're moving on from this relatively long draft, but I did notice that you removed all the public input part of it. And so I would question how you're going to reflect what the town people want unless there's some element of public input. Thanks.
Very good. We'll take a look at that, Linda.
I would take it as a given that that's our job, is to,
Well, I think the planning commission, anything we do, we have to get input from townspeople. So if it needs to be explicitly written here rather than being implicit in our work, we can do that.
Mhm.
Okay, moving along. I brought us back in the document to kind of where we were, the summary of the solar siting status that would goes from slides 5 through let me just see, 5 through 12, and thinking about the work that we have to do ahead. Because this is really following what the state has said they want us to do in looking at the plan, to ensure that it's set for the regulatory document, and to look at the edits that we might make. We had initially thought we'd go in and just make some surgical edits to that. And Jan, I don't know whether that's what the Planning Commission wants us to do. I'm sorry, Linwood, do you have a comment? Or is your hand just up? Okay.
Unmuted myself, yes.
Oh, sure.
I'm not sure whether this is what you were previously discussing or I'm not sure what slide 5 refers to. At any rate.
Slide 5 on the packet, the 5th page of the document, sorry.
Okay. Any rate, my concern is there is no mention whatsoever in what you're considering, as far as I can read it in your charge, of the point of all this, which is to mitigate climate change. How can you evaluate what progress Norwich is making in its identified goal for how much carbon we're reducing, how much we're mitigating our role in climate change in the state of Vermont? Where is that reflected in your charge? I don't understand how you can be evaluating and setting up regulations and rules for who can and who can't have solar and where it can be and how much it can be and all of this sort of thing, without placing it in the context of really what the state wants, which is every town needs to have its fair share of solar or green infrastructure, however you want to phrase it. Anyway, I would like, and I also want to say, I share Paul's concern that advocacy there's two sides to that. And my impression is that the subcommittee would prefer to see less solar rather than more solar in Norwich. That's my impression. You may disagree, but that's the impression given. That's my comment.
Jan?
Yeah, so I mean, first I would respectfully disagree with that. I'm sitting in a house powered by solar and batteries and so forth. So that's not the case for me. I would, in answer to the sort of broader topics of what is really energy planning, I think that the town plan has an energy chapter, and that is then, there's a housing chapter, there's a wildlife habitat sections. So those are all in there. Solar siting is a subset of the energy plan. And Mary, to your point, I think I went back to the minutes of the Planning Commission meeting in December, where we spoke in front of them, gave them an update, and then we met once after that. My sense of the response and the sort of work that the Planning Commission wanted us to do going out of that was provide clear I mean, the minutes, which are actually ours to approve, but our December minutes incorporate planning commission comments into a comprehensive background presentation, draft clear statements of justification and information needed for specifics such as the criteria for slopes and scenics and ridgelines and riparian areas. They wanted to know what the science was behind those limitations. And the other piece is to work towards an enhanced energy plan. And
Right.
I definitely like to talk about that topic because I think a lot of what we're talking about, pulling together what the town's people want, making it balanced with all the other elements of the plan, and having the town be able to influence what happens in the town. All those are furthered by having an enhanced energy plan. And just as context for that, and then we can open it up, some of the changes to 5100 have made it less likely that we're going to be talking about a 500 kilowatt net metered system because those need to be near the load, or they're just not going to be as many proposals for those. But that does not mean that solar, somebody can come and propose a 500 kW or a 2 megawatt solar, and we can find a site for one and encourage it. It will then be regulated under Act 248, needing a certificate of public good. And if you read the regulation, the VSA 248, substantial deference will be given to conservation measures and specific policies in a duly adopted municipal plan that has received an affirmative determination of energy compliance, ... So an enhanced energy plan. So Act 248, which is the mother statute over 5100 and so forth, is giving a good reason to do an enhanced energy plan.
Annette?
I'm just going to note my pet peeve that Act 248, it has something to do with mental health confinement, and that the correct term is Section 248.
No.
I've corrected many reporters.
Yes, you've corrected me before, I believe.
So
Vermont statutes.
when I first learned, or when I learned that Act 248 actually does exist and it has something to do with mental health confinement, that made it a little easier to perhaps get it to stick in people's head.
All
So
right.
it's 30
Well,
VSA section.
we may not be clear about which one we're talking about then. They
These
could both
days,
apply.
yes. Okay.
Yes. So BSA 248 ... But I think, I guess I would want to ask the group subcommittee first. Do you agree that an enhanced energy plan is a good vehicle for doing what we're trying to do? And is that what you heard from the PC when we talked to them?
Ernie?
Yep. I'm not muted, am I?
No.
Okay. It seems to me that the enhanced energy plan, if we do it right, which it's well within our grasp to be able to do that, we'll be able to encourage the development and use of solar energy on one hand, and at the same time, because it is part of the charge of the planning commission, we're supposed to be trying to make things work with protecting other aspects of the environment and so on as well. And it's easy to see how solar can be abused, or can be abusive when it comes to being in the wrong place and so on. But there are lots and lots and lots of good places where it's both appropriate to put it, and it probably will work better in those places, than other places. I can just think of on top of a ridge top, a ridge line. So terrible. It's not good for the environment. It's not good for a whole number of reasons. But if you put it on some sort of let's say, my favorite place to encourage people to put it is down the middle of highways. You got a lot of open air around it. There's plenty of sunlight that can be focused on the panels and so on. And they're in a brown field where almost every industrial stuff belongs. On the other hand, putting it on, we'd also be in the position to be able to encourage people to put it on houses. Not put them on their houses, but encourage the houses to be built in a way that can support solar panels, because you can put a lot of solar panels on a roof, not just what the people need in the house. And we can find ways to encourage people to have more than they need so that they can provide energy for people that cannot put them anywhere on their property, and so on. I just think that the enhanced energy plan is a way to do all of that in one nice clean place, and make it so that it's all available, and it means that it's also tied into all our other responsibilities.
I'd like to address the question, though, that's come at us of, people are discouraging solar, and I suspect that is directed at me. And so let me hit that straight on. I joined the Planning Commission after I felt that this Planning Commission did not uphold the town plan in the review of the Upper Loveland. And I felt that it was really important for people in this community to have clarity around the regulatory role of the town plan. And we're not going to relitigate that because it's been litigated to death, but it's on a cliff. It is on a steep slope / cliff. It is on a ridge line. It faces north. It clear cuts 8 acres. And this committee was given incorrect information multiple times. So my sense, my desire, and believe me, I don't have a lot of free time. But the reason I joined this committee is that I really wanted to make sure that the town plan has clarity and that is a good regulatory document so that people don't have to get that don't have projects approved that should not, quite in my opinion, should not be approved. It needs to be clear as a regulatory document. And the current document is not clear. And that's why it took over 3 years for the PUC to figure it out. And that's why it came back to this committee so many times. So if the fact that I have a different perspective from some of you around solar makes it feel like I'm anti-solar, let's just be able to have conversations about where we differ and do it in a way that is civil and productive for this town. Not everyone in this town wants to see solar panels everywhere, as so many of the people who join these meetings do. We have a town plan right now which permits people to put solar almost everywhere in town, and yet very little has been done. I think that also reflects what some people in town may wish. So our job is to make a document that's regulatory and that reflects the views of all people, not only people who are able to come to this meeting or choose to come to this meeting. And many people in this town value conservation, open space, etc. And it's our job just to make sure that the town plan speaks to different voices, reflects the laws of the town, and provides clarity to those of us who live here so that anytime there's another big project that comes, it'll be clear. Is this something that gets approved or not? And it wasn't clear. Ernie.
Well, I'll let Paul go first because he's had his hand up for a while and I want to hear what he's got to say.
You're on mute, Paul. We do want to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, thank you. Ernie, I just want to say that I support exactly what you're talking about. I'm a physician. I really, I'm in here not so much about climate change. I'm in here because of what fossil fuels is doing to our public health. And it's just not climate change. It's about the air, it's about water, it's about pollution to our land. We have to get off of fossil fuels, period. We have all these orphan wells that are not being capped. It's making methane worse. So there's an urgency here that I want to kind of project to the committee. And Ernie is exactly correct. There are areas that you can put up solar panels that would not have any visual impact on the town, such as parking lots.
Yeah.
Right by, over by King Arthur Flower, you have those panels. Put them over the cars. There are plenty of, you need to incentivize Green Mountain Power to allow people to put their panels on their homes, over their garages. We need to get this done. This is a health emergency. I can't speak about this more passionately. It has nothing to do with climate change. That's down the road. People have no idea of what that means. You look at our administration, it is not going to go anywhere. This is a public health issue. And the people who suffer most are the people who are poverty stricken. This is not a first world problem, it's a third world problem. And we have to kind of get involved. So I'm really, this is not an issue of advocating for solar or geothermal. This is about advocating about getting off of fossil fuels. So thank you.
Linwood.
Yes, I agree that air pollution and pollution in general is part of this. I disagree with Paul. I think climate change is a big issue and it's part of the emergency problem. I don't think, however, in these conversations, it's productive to suggest that those of us who attend this meeting want to put solar panels willy-nilly everywhere. I really don't think that's a productive way to carry on this conversation or to characterize those of us who care about this town equally as much as you do, Mary. I would also say that it's possible under the guise of aesthetic concerns or whatever this is, that you so regulate where solar panels can go that effectively they can't go anywhere. But it looks like you're just providing neutral regulations. And that's a concern I have as I watch this process. Any rate, I'm upset. I'm going to lower my hand now. This is unbelievable.
I'm going to share my screen right now. Can people see it?
No, not yet.
Okay, let me try again. Share. Am I permitted to share?
Yeah,
May need to be co-host or something, or get Stephen to do it.
Let's see.
it says one participant can share at a time. There you go.
You see
Yeah.
that now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just so we're all on the same page. Going back to this document that we've seen before, the town plan must be changed. The current, and also Paul, the planning commission does not regulate at all solar on people's homes and small scale solar. We don't have anything to do with that. That's the zoning, not the planning committee. We just think,
Yeah, it's not even zoning. It barely needs a permit from the state, and those are rubber stamped up to a certain number of kilowatts. So
yeah, so I mean, our job is the big one. So the town plan right now, the town plan automatically or by default bestows preferred site status on nearly all of Norwich. And that is no longer valid under the net metering laws in the state. We need to change that. The current plan really says there's very little that gives a kind of a lot of ability to do solar development in Norwich, and yet very little development has happened. On a large scale. There are a lot of rooftop solar in town. There are a lot of tracking devices. Why is this happen? The topography of the town, the access to phase power, should say power, and demand. People have chosen not to put this on their properties because they can. The town plan lets them do it. Okay, and so the short-term options, we've got to fix the regulatory language. And we've got to, and the state asks us to identify preferred, potential, and unsuitable sites. What are the places where we can put these, and what are the places that they talk about no-go sites? And so if we go for, there's some surgical edits we need to make. We need to remove the statement that says that's default preferred siting for most of the town. The 5100 rule says we can't have that anymore. And then we've got to think about what are the characteristics. I know people will, we can talk about the slope, what it should be, but this is what it currently has of where, this is the characteristics, may not be located in those characteristics. We need to think about glare. And, I know, Mary Albert, you've said before, you're not concerned about that. That is, I think, a medical issue. People should not be staring at glare their whole time and whatever. Though these are things that need to get worked out. And we need to figure out, what do we do with the super size sites? But this is the other, identify preferred, potential, and no-go areas, with preferred being gravel pits, brownfield sites, parking lots, commercial and residential roofs. Ernie, you mentioned the highway. I don't know that we can do that or if that's the state's job to do it. From the state this is from the state, what they encourage: promote the installation of solar projects where there is electric demand on locations where land has been impacted already. This is the state's commentary. This is what we are working with. Support updates to municipal building standards and energy codes. That's not our job in the Planning Commission. We can't do this. Promote or adopt building code requirements. We cannot do that in the Planning Commission. And develop guidelines for developers seeking preferred siting letters for net metering projects. We can do that. That's what we can do. And so, what should be the no-go areas? In the past, it's been riparian zones, shorelines, ridge lines. Those are the three that are currently identified, although it has not been enforced. It has not been enforced, as demonstrated by the approval of a solar site on a ridge line. Visible by scenic roads. That's something many people have. Whether we choose to do it or not, we'll find out. Vernal pools, protect them, and steep slopes. And that is largely because if you've got a, like the people, Joy Kenseth, I mean, if we have a big rain event and there's a 8-acre clear cut above her home on a steep slope, we'll be at the Planning Commission. I'll share the photos of her moving out, because it could be very devastating. So this is the work we're trying to do, is figure out where can they go, where can they not go? And that is what we're trying to do with the Energy Commission and with this group. Ernie.
First of all, I want to say that I think Paul and I do think a lot alike. It is a health issue, but the thing that how I view solar is that it's more than just health. It's more than just environment. It's more than just energy. It's all of those things and more. It's that's why it has to be encouraged, and it has to be channeled so that it can maximize. We can maximize its positive effects. If it becomes a nuisance, if people start perceiving it as a nuisance. And some people are starting to perceive it as a nuisance, that's not going to help getting solar installed to start with, but it's also not going to help solve the other problems that having solar installations, an economy powered by solar rather than petroleum and any other finite resources. We're getting in our own way if we don't get people to actually believe that solar is the way to help all these other issues. And it can. I mean, it's not just one dimensional. It's not just about producing power. It's about reducing reliance on other things. It's about reducing things that are damaging to our health. It's about protecting the natural environment, because I mean, all of these things, it has all these advantages. And speaking as an engineer, there are so many possibilities that solar presents. I can't even count them all. I mean, I just that's why I'm on this committee, because I have been sort of involved in solar industry, when I was especially down in the Route 128 area, when I was young. And it was, I wished it had gotten started in the 70s and 80s, instead of it being all the places in Route 128 being bought out by Mobil. So they had to start out all over again in the, I think, 2000s and 2010s. So now people are getting behind it, and people believe in it, and so on, and we're getting there, and I'm happy about that. And I think, Linwood, you should be happy that solar presents all these positive possibilities. It's not just producing power in a clean manner, but in actually environmentally friendly manner. I mean, but you also have to keep people from abusing things too. I mean, there are industries that would love to splather solar panels all over the place. Most of that power won't be going to helping anybody. It'll be helping it'll just be produced. It's like nuclear power plants. They are useless, and they're toxic, and they are the most dangerous things on the planet. But they're good for business. You can turn anything into a bad thing. If you let avaricious people control it. And the good thing about solar power is that it's even able to be controlled by individuals and small entities and so on. It does not, of all the mass production of energy sources, it does not require big, huge bucks to do it. I mean, Jan's got his own solar system going. I mean, he's one of the first people I knew that could actually pull it off. That I know personally. I mean, and it's a thing that works, and it's something to be encouraged, and at the same time controlled, so it's not taken over by bad actors. That's it.
Jan?
Yeah, I just wanted to take what you had up on the slides there about next steps and wrap it back into the enhanced energy plan vehicle for doing this, because I think that would help us structure the conversation and have things to hang this on. Because, like, for example, we have a document from Kyle at Two Rivers looking over our town plan and saying these are the things you would need to do to have it qualify as as an enhanced energy plan. And they were not heavy lifts. They were things that we could do, so that was kind of the details of, you need to update your data, you need to have these statements, and then the things that you have listed in the slides, identify the preferred sites. I clearly specify the no-go as in defined, clear community standards. So I think if we use the enhanced energy plan as a vehicle, it could help us move forward.
So, but Jan, so let's talk about sequencing, because right now we have a town plan that doesn't meet the state law. And so do we go in and make that plan adhere to 5100 and get that done, and then do the enhanced energy? Because if we want to try to get the enhanced energy done, we have a town plan that is woefully out of compliance with the state.
I would prefer to do it as an enhanced energy plan. We are talking in the planning commission about starting a capital planning element, which the first stage of which is adding a chapter to the town plan that is the facilities and the background, whatever it's called, utilities and facilities chapter. So we're planning to touch the town plan before 2028. The list that Kyle created does not add a great deal more to the exercise than what we're already talking about to become an enhanced energy plan. So I think we can do it all at once, that it's worth doing the bundle because it comes with a great deal more benefit. You know, I think the VSA 248 statement, substantial deference. If you do the work to get an enhanced energy plan, you get substantial deference in all 248 projects instead of due consideration or whatever the weaker version is. So that's a major increase in the town's influence. And if the point, as I see it, is we're trying to collect and balance the desires of townspeople relative to this topic, and then make those desires as powerful as possible in the grand scheme of decision making. And a very good vehicle created by the state to do that is to do it as an enhanced energy plan.
Linda Gray.
Thanks. And so, I definitely think working through the enhanced energy plan process would be a worthwhile way to approach this policy making. And I would like to just ask the Energy Committee, the Planning Commission has received a memo from the Energy Committee and has offered to work with the Planning Commission on this. And I'd just like to ask, do you expect to take the Energy Committee up on that offer? Do you want to involve the Energy Committee? It seems like most efforts involving town enhanced energy plans have, if those towns have an Energy Committee, it has involved them. And all of this discussion so far, and here's my petty thing, it's a little annoying that you guys keep scheduling your meetings on the regular meeting date of the Energy Committee. But so it's like, yeah, are you gonna try to collaborate with the Energy Committee?
Jan?
Well, I personally would say, you know, absolutely yes. The point is that just like we should, if we were doing the wildlife habitat portion of the town plan, we would collaborate with the Conservation Commission and the various groups that are most interested in that. Then we should absolutely involve and work with the Energy Committee on the enhanced energy plan. So personally, I would say yes. And yes, we can figure out our meeting dates to work better. We just try to stay on Tuesdays to keep our brains aligned, but that we can do better on that.
Okay. Why don't we go to the 6th, the discussion of preferred sites? I mean, I don't know, Jan, if you want to go there, or if this is, you want to just move this to a preferred energy discussion and have that happen. We're not prepared to do that today. But we had talked, the agenda has us talking about preferred sites and seeing if whether there's agreement about that. And I mean, Paul.
Yeah, I think it's worth touching on, you know, and Linda, to Linda's point, I mean, I do think it's sort of cheating in a way, but we feel like the Energy Committee has been involved because you're our most faithful participants, and the way that we run these meetings is to, pretty much open the floor up to whoever wants to speak. So I know it may not feel as collaborative as you want it to be, but clearly the input is there and the involvement is there, and we just need to do that with a purpose in mind. I would like, I guess, Mary, to get, and it doesn't have to stop us from continuing, but for the next meeting, I think it would be very helpful to get a framework for enhanced energy plan, and they're very specific resources that we can reference from the state that say, and the regional commission that say, here's how you do an EEP, here are the elements, here are the questions. And so if we have that framework, then we can use it going forward. But clearly, one piece of that is going to be talking about preferred sites. And so it's perfectly fine to continue with
Why
this.
don't we- I'm concerned. So Mary, if you have something to add, that's great. I guess I get a little worried too, that it's really hard for us to make progress if we keep just having, discussions around whether people are for or against solar projects, et cetera. So I do want to get through the agenda, and we have some, limited time.
Okay, I just have 2 sentences. I think that the enhanced energy plan has been clearly articulated within this group as the way to go forward, recommended way to go forward. A common sense way to schedule meetings is to have to poll the energy. I'm not on the energy committee, and that doesn't matter. But poll the energy committee, poll this solar siting committee. Find out times when most people on both committees are available and have the meeting then, instead of having a meeting and not even seeing if half the people can attend.
Mary, thank you for your advice on scheduling. We'll take that into account and try to do it. I mean, we are trying to find a time when Jan and Ernie and I together has been a challenge, and we had one meeting which the town was not able to do it, but we appreciate your advice on scheduling. Let's talk about preferred sites then. And we have the ones that the state has talked about: gravel pits, brownfield sites, parking lots, commercial and residential roofs. Are there others that people would like to say this is where we should be in our enhanced energy plan and in our town plan? We should be looking to we should encourage that. Jan?
Well, I just have a question to whoever might be able to help with this, because what it seems like is wherever you have them, or whenever you're going to put them somewhere, you should max them out. If, it drives me nuts. I drive past a barn and it's got a third of the roof covered with solar panels. Or the Sharon School. I was at a baseball game, and the Sharon School is enormous roof with about 10% of it covered with solar panels. And what are the avenues for getting it maxed out whenever you're doing it? And I understand that there's some net metering, the yearly cycle of net metering. If I make more power than I use on a yearly basis, then I kind of eat that. But where does it stand in trying to encourage a little bit bigger project whenever they are built?
Ernie, do you have the answer to that, or Annette, do you have a response to that specific question or something else?
I don't have an answer to that. What I was hoping to ask is if the people that are on right now could feel free to just pipe up with any kind of suggestion they got, just to sort of see what other things there are besides what we've listed in the agenda. And it doesn't matter really, from my point of view, if they're far-fetched or are not practical or anything like that right now. From my point of view, this is what we taught kids in a couple of engineering classes that we taught at high school level. You got to get people who are collaborating to start working and thinking about the project, and it doesn't really matter at the outset whether any of the ideas are practical or anything. Just get ideas on paper and get started. And I think that some of the people that are listening might appreciate being able to actually have that kind of input, because it helps. I mean, it doesn't matter how whether they're great engineering ideas or anything like that, but it always helps to get things started. I know that from an engineering point of view, so that's where I'm coming from right now.
Annette?
I wanted to offer some information, but if people want to respond to Ernie's question, I'd be glad to wait.
Come on, people.
Well, we come back around. Yeah.
You need the energy committee.
Huh? I'm sorry, what?
You ought to take up this question with the energy committee.
Well, I mean, you could say something. I'm hoping anybody who's listening will say something.
Put them on the schools. How's that, Ernie? Put them on
That's a start. That's a good start.
We've got, and Tracy Hall's got a roof that's being renovated.
Yeah, there you
There's
go.
another one.
We got but we have roofs on our list, so.
Right.
Mhm.
I'm hoping some more imagination here. And like I said, don't hold back. This is what we taught the kids. Don't hold back. Come up with, if it's science fiction, think of science fiction ideas. If anything you've seen in science fiction, I hope people have been paying attention to science fiction. It's a great way I love it.
Okay.
I
Annette,
mean,
and not to just keep, but other people bring ideas up, but Annette for now.
So I'm going to share my screen. Since we last met, a number of things have changed or more information has become available. One of the things that's changed is that for the registration process of net metered projects, it was capped at 15 kilowatts and now it's 25 kilowatts. So people can put in larger arrays. This was intended to be able to serve homes that not only wanted to generate household electricity, but also for heat pumps and for electric vehicles. Velco came up with what they call a heat map. And this is about the transmission system. So the areas that are in turquoise have available capacity. The areas that are in orange don't. And in fact, the Hartford substation, or I don't know if it's a substation or it probably is actually over capacity by 361.45. I guess that's kilowatts. I'm not positive, maybe megawatts. And going up everything along I-89 and
It's
9
megawatts, Annette, by the little,
megawatts. Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, right down here. So, this is where Velco does not want to see large generation projects. Now switching to Green Mountain Power's map, this has a couple of different things. Here's Norwich. The yellow dots are all of the solar generation. You've got a lot of solar generation in Norwich already. If somebody wanted to go click on each little dot, you could add it up. And then the substations. So this is the distribution system. There's a substation up here in Thetford. It has capacity of, it's got 4,007. Yeah, so it's got plenty of capacity. And then the ones down here in Wilder and these all have capacity too. So there is room for more in the distribution system. There is not room for more in the transmission system. So I thought those would be worth sharing with you.
So that's very interesting. What does that mean? That means if we used it around here, we wouldn't burden the transmission system.
Right.
So
Well,
it,
the transmission system, right? So that's, I think, leading us to where we've talked about before. You're not going to be seeing the, 4.9 megawatt solar projects that, and I've seen several of them applied for just in the last couple of days. One of them is proposing to contract to sell directly to Green Mountain Power. Another one is proposing to sell on grid. Those are not in these areas that have constraints. So for you, it means there is room up to a certain point in terms of, as long as it will go on the distribution system. And again, you can look at different towns to see sort of per capita how much, like in Heartland, I guess that's Heartland, yeah, their grid is not up to handling it all, probably because of this substation.
Mhm.
But your area, because you have substation capacity, is, but you have a lot of solar, and so does White River Junction. So it's, the maps are very helpful. So the solar
can you
project,
answer a specific question, Annette, on the go to 25 kilowatts, say for a single residence? And that's precisely why we went from 8 to 12 was for heat pump and an electric car. But if you go to where you're making more than you're personally using in an annualized basis, or the way they do net metered credits, did that go up at all?
there were
Or
no other
you
changes to that.
you still lose it if you don't use it within a year?
As I understand it, you can give the credits away to other people.
No, you used to be able to hook a different account to it. We did that for a while,
Yeah,
but
so you can't do that anymore. Yeah.
it
So
counts as group net
I'm off
metering.
grid, so I don't get a bill, so I don't know uh the answer, but I do know that uh the main reason, I guess what came out of the discussion was that there was not an incentive to overbuild because of what you're talking about. Because I was concerned that people would overbuild and then just give away the credits, and I was not aware of the change in the system that you can't do that. So we are seeing now more large solar being proposed. I'm not seeing any 500 kilowatt projects. I am seeing a few 150 kilowatt and something below that. But with the change, the other change is the federal subsidies and the investment tax credit. And that is still very much up in the air. There's a very good piece on E&E News right today. If you want to look it up, it's a free story. And it goes into some detail about what may happen because there the legislation that was passed was just one piece of it, but the next piece of it is the executive order that directs the Treasury to look at the the requirements for the investment and production tax credits. They were given 45 days, and so apparently by mid-August the rules may be rewritten. And so to whatever extent developers want to use these credits, they that it's still up in the air. The other thing is that there is money that did come to Vermont called Solar for All, and the Department of Public Service just put out an RFP. It's not a contract to actually develop solar, but there is some movement, and as far as I can tell, and there have been several different proposals, so I can't say that I can keep it all straight, but that the idea is that the companies will work with the community to identify good sites, and that I think that the RFPs will be done through the utilities. So the one that the department issued was intended to determine what interest there might be from developers to engage in this. So there's a lot of moving pieces right now. Solar is not over by any means in Vermont. What's happening on the federal level will have an effect in some respects, but your planning process, I think the next piece I would like to see, Jan, you were going to go talk to like the guy with the gravel pit. There were some.
Yeah, that was my next point to say, how do we actually encourage? Because this is always the issue with planning. We can say, wouldn't it be great to put affordable housing there or a solar site there? But you got to get the landowner, the
Gotta go
developer,
talk to
the
people.
financing, and all that stuff to work for it to actually happen.
All those parking lots that you have all along Route 5, that's the kind of outreach to go out and do. And then, it's a lot of pieces to put together, but if you want to find sites, that's the way to move forward with them. I mean, if you get over to Rutland, there's a parking lot canopy that I direct everyone to. It's opposite the McDonald's on Route 4. And it is at the Stafford Technical School, the high school. I think it's 150 kilowatts. It may be smaller than that. I think the whole array plus what's on the school is 150, but it's what we all should be uh, seeing all over Vermont. In the winter, the cars are parked under it and they don't get snow. In the summer, their cars are parked under it and they don't get overheated. It was built to have car chargers too. Now there is a bank of Tesla chargers across the street, but apparently they never got the car chargers in. Phil Allen at Same Sun did that installation. I've been encouraging people to talk to him. Johnson Controls, I think, is the one that actually was contracted to do it. One way it was one or the other, but these do cost more. But in the long run, how do we assess the costs of farm fields? And so I think that in terms of you making progress on identifying where solar will fit and what size will fit, you could be ready for some of these solar for all projects if you go out and talk to people in the community and say, hey, this could fit uh, something, and maybe if we can pull the pieces together, would you be open to it?
Yeah, and
Thanks.
that was part of that mapping exercise we did, or that I did.
A lot, yeah.
We didn't put maps out, but I can tell you the exact size of the Monshire Museum parking lot and the King Arthur parking lot and the Huntley Meadow, and you can start to look at those. And the Monshire one is the biggest, and I would hope that they're the type of organization that would be interested in discussing it. It's a good, to wrap back to the charter discussion, Mary, it's a good question to say, which group is it, this group that does that legwork to connect a developer with a landowner with a financing scheme or whatever? Is that our charge? I don't have the answer to that, but it's
I don't think we want to be doing that, but I think identifying the areas and talking with the folks, because, I mean, Annette and I've talked about this a lot. You don't, you want to, it's good community values, say, talk to your neighbors about these things before, bringing them up and suggesting them. And, again, if we think of ourselves as a region, look across the river, there are a lot of parking lots within an hour, within a couple of miles of Norwich over at Dartmouth College. And there could be a whole lot of work there for those of you who are engaged or part of Dartmouth.
The other
Rob?
thing, if I
Yes.
could suggest, is if you're going to be working with the Energy Committee, and good interface with the Energy Committee would be to have them do the outreach to the state to find out what's going on with the Solar for All and any other programs. The RFP was issued by Andy Perchlik, who's head of the Clean Energy Group at the Department of Public Service. He's also a state senator, and he would know what's going on. And then there's TJ Poor, who's also in planning, and they've been the lead on these things. So I would suggest that if you wanted to, if the Planning Commission is working on what are the standards for good sites and even trying to identify good sites, and then the Energy Committee could come in with actually seeing what could be done if those sites are identified.
Thanks, Annette. Rob?
Yes, in reference to items 6 and 7, one of the things that occurs to me is that, for instance, the using as a factor three-phase power, and there are a few other contributing resources. Those are not permanent and insurmountable. So, for instance, three-phase power can be extended at a point. It's deemed profitable to Green Mountain Power or to the will of the state to put money into it. And so some of those features are not permanent things and should be referred to as variable limitations or enhancements. The other aspect of it is, for instance, this in 6, specifically listed are gravel pits, brownfield site, parking lots, commercial and residential roofs. Those are the most ideal preferred sites. There are other sites that are preferable and have positive features that would lend them well to being a preferred site. But the ones that are listed are simply the ones that are no-brainers and pretty much universally accepted as preferred.
So what would be some of the other in kind of, Ernie's encouragement? So, we've identified preferred, potential, and no-go. So Rob, what would be the other places that you would say are the ones you would want to see on that potential list?
Oh, the thing that the fantasy one, which would be beneficial for Norwich in 1,000 different ways, or at least one or two, would be co-development with agriculture. Utilizing what would normally be an agricultural field that could be co-working with shade crops. But one of the problems, one of the most severe limiting problems of Norwich is the value of the land and the cost, the actual monetary cost. And so, but that's not necessarily something that we should concern ourselves with as a totally limiting aspect of it. It's one of the reasons we haven't had a lot of development is because it doesn't necessarily make dollars and cents. But as we approach climate collapse, which to call back to some of Paul's issues, as we approach that more closely with flooding every year and deaths occurring even in Vermont, as well as other states in the country and the world, the cost limitations may all of a sudden start to pale. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Linda?
Hi, thanks. I just had 2 points I want to make. One is I just wanted to follow up on what Annette said with regard to the net meter registration going up to 25 kilowatts. So that's for ground mount up from 15 because roof mount has all along been up to 500 kilowatts for simple registration. And this is for net metering. So the change is for ground mount solar. The other thing I wanted to say is like in plain English terms, you can talk about a preferred site. I do want to note that in the connection with net metering, there had been a particular meaning for town designated preferred site. That is kind of moot at this point because it relates to basically off-site net metering, which is no more of that is going to be happening under the renewable energy standard reform passed by the legislature last year. So there are some projects whose permitting got going and happened and are grandfathered under that. But as you talk about preferred site going forward, developers aren't going to care about town designated preferred sites because that's not a category of net meter project that is permitted anymore.
I thought,
Yeah, yeah, just to be clear, and I did think that we could talk about nomenclature just to clarify, because yeah, the way it's written up, preferred site letter, which is still mentioned, but it's it's later in the process after you have a 45-day period and you're reviewing a specific application, you can do the municipality and the planning commission can do a preferred citing letter. But it's not, to Linda's point, it's not a beforehand you've designated it in the town. Now, I don't know if you call it, just to be accurate, you say, okay, we have prime sites, there's a different name for it. But I guess the question, and we have actually Chris Katuki wrote a letter to us about this. To what degree and in what way can a town in their plan point developers to certain locations? That's that's what we're trying to do. We should call it the right thing and we should do what's legal. But I guess I'd ask the group for guidance on how do you do that encouragement?
I thought they were asking us to do that. The state was asking us to do that. So we'll have to check on that.
I guess, yeah, it's different than it was in the earlier version of 5100. But I would, is it a map with areas identified, with specific sites identified? I've certainly seen plans with and examples of specific sites identified that actually worked, that a developer then looked and said, oh, people agree that's a good place. I won't get much pushback. I'll go work with them. But so it gets to my point about how do you connect all the dots and make something happen? Practically speaking, how do we, as a town, select these areas and then make it happen?
Annette, can you help us with this?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, please.
So the Public Utility Commission's process is very confined in terms of how they review projects. And this is partly the result of Supreme Court decisions. So a town plan needs to have regulatory language in order to be regulatory. It needs to contains the words must and shall. So an example, a solar array shall not be located on a steep slope greater than 50%. Now, the percentage is what makes it regulatory. If it just says shall not be located on a steep slope, that's not regulatory. So there are those types of standards that you can put in. However, this is very hard to do, but it also needs to be specific to an area. So our town plans usually have future land use maps. They divide things into different districts or areas. It's not zoning, but it's whatever is in your town plan map. And if you reference a specific area that says, let's just say you're downtown, because I think you have a downtown district, that a solar array larger than 100 kilowatts shall not be located in the downtown district, that would be regulatory. Now, I'm not saying that at all that's what you should put in your plan. I'm just trying to give you examples of how to be specific in terms of giving the PUC what they need. If you look at the net metering rule, there are a couple of examples of things that you can do. You can't exclude, you can't make a policy that's specific to solar arrays that doesn't cover all the other types of development. It needs to, you can't just say we want to protect all the prime ag soils, but you can say a solar array shall not be located on the field at Bailey Road.
So, Annette, so my question is the other side of that.
Okay.
How do you point at where you want it?
Well, the easiest thing is a map. You know, you've seen those. You can put it on a map. You can say that the parking lots along Route 5 are good sites for solar canopies. You can identify the, you know, a gravel pit and the built landscape. The trickier part comes with what happens with fields and forests. To what Rob said, I think having looked at the area, one of your big constraints is your topography. You just have all these little narrow valleys and all these hills, and it's just not conducive to solar. There are a lot of, you know, the rooftops and where people live are, use it where it's generated. That's great. That minimizes the distribution system and transmission system. But in terms of where you can put larger arrays, you do not have a lot of options. And so that's why looking at anything that is, you know, near the three-phase power that is you know, already disturbed, it would be ideal. We really are losing a lot of farmland. The numbers are shocking, and so it's concerning to see agricultural fields covered in solar. I think you probably do have some opportunities for that sort of thing, but that's the kind of thing. I mean, on the flip side of it too, your town plan, if it's written in a way that encourages solar development, can also discourage fights, discourage the kind of fight that happened over upper Loveland Solar. That should be your goal, is to make sure that you are putting standards in place that are clear to everyone and that are going to result in the type of development you want and not tear your community apart and get neighbors fighting with each other. So it's not easy. I know it's, you know, you've put a lot of work into it already, and I think you need to move forward and talk to people and see what's possible and get a sense of, you know, what could go where in the areas that have the capacity.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I think we can use this agenda item and in the minutes, I mean, I can put more information about the sizes of the parking lot. I mean, the Monchar parking lot can hold a 300 kW. It's 2+ acres.
And I think, to answer your question, I've given you the link to the East Montpelier town plan that has, you know, was done by an aesthetics expert. It has a map that shows all their scenic resources that they want to protect. Then it also lists them out in a table. If you really want to get into that kind of detail, that's a great template for it.
Yep. You know, the Monchar parking lot is a great thing, and residents of the town want it, then go fundraise for it. I mean, the Monshire probably doesn't have the budget to go invest in that, but if it is something that, you know, the community wants so much, then, you know, this is part of the financing plan. If that's something the Energy Commission wants to do, is say Monshire would love to do this, but they don't have the money, then people write a check who are, you know, wanting that to happen. I mean, I think that could be, you know, other work of the Energy Commission if that's the desire. Linda.
Thanks. I do want to highlight that legislation has changed the landscape for net metered solar in Vermont. So pretty much at this point, net meter solar is residential scale. That's allowed still. And the easy registration has been, that limit has been raised for ground mounted. But the net meter solar that might be, like that might be at, say, the Montshire parking lot, whatever is put there would have to be used by the Montshire. It's not something that could be community solar. So community solar, where there's a certain size and various users who are not connected to the site would get credits on their bill for it. Forget that. That's not happening anymore, except for some grandfathered projects. And so the type of solar that will be developed would be more likely to be for to be a contract with the utility.
Right.
Not something where there's a bunch of small users that get together and do it. So forget the idea, so if you did solar on, Huntley Meadow parking lot, the town would the town would have to use it, and I'm not, so just keep that in mind. The landscape is changed, and we're more headed toward solar projects with a utility contract and frankly, the costs of doing the projects like 150 or 500 kilowatt solar projects that had been net metered projects, but the costs of doing them are higher. And then now there's no net metering for offsite users. And so that means the finances behind doing those projects is fallen away. So I just want you guys to understand that change.
Yeah, I knew that, and I was wondering what it actually meant from. So let's take two examples, and maybe we can get specific enough about how to encourage them. So say you have a Montshire 300 kW canopy project, and yep, if they don't use 300 kW worth of power in their facility, then it needs to be a different kind of project that connects with the utility. So that's one, and I'd be curious if the answer was just like, nope, you're not going to get GMP to care about a 300 kW contract, if that's the answer. Then we have, we have an old gravel pit north of town that is 15 acres that you can only see from the highway and nowhere else. That you could put 3 megawatts on. So I would think from a commercial point of view, it's got three-phase power right there. It's a gravel pit, and that seems to me like a commercial contract with GMP is much more feasible. Is that?
Could I add a little bit more to that? Because I just went to the Public Service Department Solar for All site, which is current as of July, and they have 3 different programs. One is residential solar, one is opportunities for membership in a community solar project, and one is benefits for residents of affordable housing. They call them RAISE, MASH, and ACRE. The ACRE is the Affordable Community Renewable Energy Project. So that's why I suggest doing some outreach to see what's happening with these and how they're going to work. It's all changing, but there are opportunities for the community solar. Okay.
Linda.
Thank you. I had also a few days ago been at the PSD, the Public Service Department website about this, and I just have to note a little skepticism about this because it's a award from the EPA and a grant agreement, and I think we're all aware of changes with federal grant agreements. And so it says Solar for All benefits for Vermonters are expected to become available in the second half of 2025. PSD is hiring contractors and executing grant agreements as we finalize our work plan. I just read this I just read this website and I feel like not a lot is very well defined. So like it would be great if it happens, but nevertheless, even those projects I think are they're going to be bigger than a 500 kilowatt thing. They're also going to tend to be sort of, probably a megawatt or something like that. Anyway, just to
So I think, Paul, did you have your hand up? I didn't want to miss you. Are you all set?
Well said, Mary. Thank you.
Okay.
I have
thank
to
you.
leave, but I just want to thank you
Yeah.
very much for having this tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming. I think we've probably gotten to the end of the agenda. We want to approve the notes from the last time and take everyone's advice on the working towards the energy plan and taking advice on how to schedule our meetings going forward. And let's hope we can get some progress soon, because we've got a lot of work done, but we just feel like we keep talking, and I think finding some energy forward would be helpful. So I guess a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved. And
Second.
that's this, it's December 17th.
Second.
2024.
Long time ago. I do remember them.
Uh,
Okay. All in favor?
I
Yep. Aye. Okay.
So looking forward, and we can talk date if you want, but I would just, which pieces, I mean, I can prepare something for the agenda and get it in the packet that gets to the things we've just said verbally. Here's how big these 4 parking lots are. Here's some circles on the map where the gravel pits are. Here's where the 3-phase power, that, just get that where everybody's looking at the same thing. And then I think we should put in Kyle's
I was
note
gonna say that's the thing we need
that
further.
says specifically, here's what we need to put in for an enhanced energy plan. And then we can kind of jump into the specifics of here's how we frame it in a plan, both preferred and no go, or whatever word we want to use instead of preferred.
Great.
I just wanted to say I'm happy to do the background on the enhanced energy plan.
Thank you.
I can
Great
add that
seeing
to my list.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if we can just have a framework, and there is, I'm sure you have it, or I can forward you. There is a state document that is worksheet for producing enhanced energy plan, and it's just step, check the boxes,
Yeah.
tells you what to do.
Yeah, I will. Happy to do that.
Okay. Motion
All
to
right. Motion to adjourn?
so moved.
Okay.
No discussion allowed.
Okay.
I
Thank
agree. Thank you, everyone. I'm going to end the meeting now, and we'll see you next time.